Well, my thoughts are very positive. I think we certainly achieved one aim, which was to tackle both the issue of lack of access, in other words, malnutrition, and the excess people eat in the West, namely obesity. And the 6 speakers we had, I think, covered that extremely well. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't have more coverage of genetically modified food, of GM, but that was just the way that the speakers decided to tackle the issue. Well, the message I'd like to come out from the seminar is that here is OIBC, a small niche NGO, small charity, but making a real positive impact on some very important issues, as I've said. First of all, malnutrition, obesity, and low-cost technology especially. And those are very important issues, and I think, as some of the speakers have indicated, by bringing this diverse group of people together, they've been able to talk to each other. They've also made new contacts, which they will maintain and keep in touch with each other. So I think we've opened, if you like, another area for future discussion. And it's also possible that another book may emerge from today's meeting, which would be very good, because it's all good publicity for OIBC. And of course I was very pleased that I was able to have 2 minutes on the Today program, which again at least mentions OIBC. So I think that in terms of promoting what OIBC does and what its remit is, it's been a very useful day. Absolutely, and especially through your help in recording everything and then putting it on the internet, which I'm sure is the way for the future. That will reach can, in principle, once they know about it, reach a phenomenally large audience. That's the way we want to go. Well, my own personal thoughts about GM are that it really doesn't matter too much whether people in this country, in Western Europe, the United States, eat GM foods or not. If they don't want to eat GM food, well, that's fine. Well, Americans actually can't avoid it because they've been eating it for the last 10, 15 years anyway, most of the time without realizing it. In our case, there's a lot of negative feeling in Europe against GM food. But I take the same view about it as I do about climate change, that although we contribute only 2% of greenhouse gases worldwide towards climate change, and you could take the view that therefore it doesn't actually matter whether we do anything about it or not, unless we show the rest of the world that we too are serious about it, then the big producers of climate change, of greenhouse gases, will just say, well, they're not doing it, so why should we? So the same thing goes for GM foods. Unless we show that we think the technology is worthwhile, there's no danger whatsoever to health. I mean, there may be, one can debate the problems of the environment, about birds and crops moving from one field into another, but there is absolutely no debate, or there shouldn't be any debate, about the so-called negative effects of eating GM foods, because there aren't any. And so we need to give a lead, and then that will make the African countries and South Asian countries and so on feel as though they're part of a bigger scheme, and they'll feel more ready to use GM crops. Because make no mistake about it, the countries that really need GM technology are those in sub-Saharan Africa, Southern Asia and so on, where having crops that are drought resistant, that are saline resistant, so you can grow them near the sea, that are pest resistant, it's going to make a huge difference. Remember that the crop yields in countries like Africa is 1/10 of that in the West or even in China. Their yields are very, very much lower, but GM technology can push all that up. So it really is the way to go in the future. Access to new technology, as was discussed, like GM technology, and not only the technology, but also the other remedial measures that are required, like land use and so on and so forth. And those are much more important than merely money. I mean, as you know, the World Bank and other organizations have been throwing money at Africa for the last 10, 20, 30 years. It's complete waste. Complete waste. I always use the word tirade, aid and trade. Tirade, aid and trade. None of those three is really helping Africa. Bono and Bob Geldof may raise some money one year, try and raise awareness, but it has made virtually no difference to the starving masses of Ethiopia or anywhere else. Trade, the Africans are not working on a level playing field because of the trade restrictions from both the United States and European Union, so they don't get a chance. And the aid goes mainly into the pockets of corrupt politicians. At least 80% of aid is wasted. Indeed, for making us all aware of it, that's right. And that's why I was very pleased. Well, he couldn't come today, I had asked him, but Prue Leith was here. And both she and other people, I read an article by Rosie Boycott, wrote an article the other day, have emphasized that the idea that you should eat meat every day is really not natural for humans. And we used not to do it. 50 years ago, people didn't eat meat every day. And now they assume that they eat it not only every day, some of them eat it twice a day. And there are 2 points about that. A, it tends to make you more obese for various reasons that we heard about today. And B, it uses up so much more in the way of resources, land use and especially water. A kilogram of beef uses 10 times as much water as a kilogram of grain. And water is going to be the rate limiting factor over the next few decades. Well, I'm always positive about the prospects of the future because I think humans have an innate ability to solve problems and answer questions. So as each new disaster starts to loom, we look for answers, and I'm sure we will find them. So I don't think that Homo sapiens is going to go under in the next 100 or 200 years. As the previous speaker pointed out, there will be enough food to go around, but it requires better management. We can do that.